Carmel Valley is one of San Diego's best cities to live in, but the median home price is about $2 million, so is it actually worth it? And I actually lived here for a little while, so I'm gonna show you all the different things there is to do, the different neighborhoods, the schools, shopping, and just about everything else you should know before you move here. All right, let's get into it. Now, I wanna start with the biggest draw, which is the schools. And look, when someone tells me that education's their #1 priority, then Carmel Valley is the first place I'm gonna recommend. They have some of the top rated public schools in not just San Diego, but in actually all of California. I mean, these students score well above the average on the SAT and the ACT, and that's exactly why a lot of families want to live here. Canyon Crest and Torrey Pines both have an A+ rating, and almost all the middle schools and elementary schools are at a 9 or a 10. And by the way, when we talk about property taxes, you'll see exactly how all these schools get funded, so definitely stick around for that. But something you might not realize is how much these schools actually drive demand here and keep home prices up. Some of these neighborhoods command a 10 to 20% premium just because of the school boundary. So if you're seriously considering Carmel Valley, I work with families moving here all the time. And of course, I can walk you through all the different neighborhoods and show you exactly where you should look. So if you need any help, you can always call, email, or text me, or just scan the QR code. All right, now another thing you're gonna love about Carmel Valley is the actual location. It's right off the 56 and the 5 freeway, and you're right next to Del Mar, La Jolla, Rancho Santa Fe, which are some of the most desirable areas in San Diego. You're also really close to major business hubs like Sorrento Valley, UTC, Torrey Pines, so I will say it's very convenient. And if you do work in one of these places, you're gonna cut your commute down quite a bit. And look, there's a lot of professionals in tech, biotech, and healthcare that wanna live here just because it is such a central location. So you can easily save a few hours a week on your commute, especially if you're considering places like Poway or even up north in Oceanside. Also, downtown and the airport are only like 20 to 30 minutes away, so if you travel for work multiple times a month, it's gonna make it super easy. Now, you also get the beach that's basically in your backyard, and it's only about a 10-minute drive to get to the beaches in Del Mar, or you can get down to La Jolla Shores pretty quickly, or even up to Encinitas, so that's another huge plus. We also used to go to the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve all the time, which is right on the south end of Carmel Valley. They have 12 miles of trails, there's a waterfall you can hike to, and it's actually one of the biggest urban parks in the country. Now, one thing I loved about living in Carmel Valley was the weather, and I gotta say, it's probably better than living right on the coast. And it's funny because I remember when it was warm and sunny where I lived, and then as soon as I drove down to the coast, it would be completely gray and cloudy. So it's kind of a bummer that you're not right by the water, but I think the weather's actually better when you're a little bit further inland. It also doesn't get too hot over here, so overall it's a very mild climate. Now, you're also really close to some great shopping, and everything's only maybe 5 to 10 minutes away. So there's Del Mar Heights Town Center, which is this giant shopping plaza. There's over 80 businesses with grocery stores, fitness studios, different restaurants. And then they have the Sky Deck, which is kind of like an upscale food court. So it's a great place where you can grab some food or drinks up here. And it's just a fun place we'd go to for dinner. Now, right across the street from here is One Paseo. It's another newer shopping plaza with places like Nick's, which is one of our go-to restaurants. They also have a Salt and Straw for ice cream. There's Postino's, and it's just an upscale place that has a lot of different companies and offices nearby. So you'll see people that work around here, they end up walking to One Paseo for lunch or even happy hour. Now, I'm gonna talk more about Pacific Highlands Ranch in just a little bit, but I wanna mention their town center because this is where I did most of my shopping. So Trader Joe's is here. They have some other casual food places like Pacific Social and Amalfi, and they also have a Crunch Fitness that I went to. They also host some different community events here like outdoor movie nights, so this is definitely the go-to spot. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the real estate. So when it comes to the median price, it's just about $2 million, and that number includes condos and townhomes. So if you take those out of there, the median price jumps up to almost $2.5 million. Now, if we look at the market right now, there's only 23 detached homes listed, and the cheapest one's at $2 million. So if we're being completely realistic, that price is really the entry point, and I'd say it's gonna be pretty challenging finding anything under that $2 million mark. And look, in the last 3 months, the average days on market has been 25 days, which is one of the lowest times in San Diego. So it's definitely still a very competitive market. And if you're a buyer, don't be surprised if there's multiple offers on a property. Now, if you're okay with a condo or a townhouse, those are definitely going to be a lot more affordable, but you also got to factor in about a $500 or $600 a month HOA fee. Median price is about $1 million right now, and you can find some priced around 7 or 800,000, and they go all the way up to 1.4, 1.5 million. But just so you know that at these lower price points, you might only be getting 1 or 2 bedrooms at 800 to 1,000 square feet. So if you want or you need something that's bigger than that, then plan on paying a bit more. There's also not a ton of condos or townhomes in Carmel Valley, so you don't have many options, and there's usually quite a bit of competition. And look, if you really want to break into this market, definitely make sure you're pre-approved and ready to go. So that way, when a good house pops up, you can jump on it right away. Now, one more thing you should keep in mind is that some of these neighborhoods have a Mello-Roos tax, which is basically an additional property tax. They help pay for all the new schools and infrastructure around here, and you're actually going to see Mello-Roos taxes in most of these newer areas. So if a house does have one of these, they can range anywhere from $200 to I'd say about $400 a month. And if you have any questions about this, or if you want to know if a certain house has one of these taxes, you can always call, text, or email me, or just scan the QR code. All right, now that you know a little bit about all the prices, let's talk about some of these different neighborhoods. So the very first thing you're going to notice is how consistent Carmel Valley is. It's very clean, it's very well maintained, and there's these big open roads everywhere, and it just feels incredibly safe. So you really can't go wrong with any of the places I'm going to talk about, but depending on what exactly you're looking for, there's a few different neighborhoods, and they're all just a little bit different. So just south of the 56 freeway is a neighborhood known as Del Mar Mesa, and this is going to be the most expensive part of town. There's a lot of custom homes with these big backyards, and some of the streets have gated communities, and you're basically tucked away from everything, so it feels completely private. Now, you got to drive up the hill to get here, so it's not the most convenient part of Carmel Valley, but people that buy a house up here care way more about privacy. It also has a very laid back feel, and there isn't any traffic up here, so it's a really great place to just get away from everything. Now, one thing that might surprise you is that nearly every neighborhood in Carmel Valley has an HOA, and those fees can range anywhere from $100 to $500 a month. They cover things like landscaping, parks, maintenance, and sometimes even community pools. And Pacific Highlands Ranch is where you're going to get a lot of these amenities. So this is a giant master plan community that started back in about 2010, and it's one of these places where you have everything you need. They have a 13-acre park, a 17,000 square foot rec center, and also a pool and a barbecue area. I mean, there's a ton of things to do in this neighborhood, especially if you have kids. And I mentioned before that they have the town center for all your day-to-day shopping. And if you value walkability, then you're absolutely gonna love it here. There's so many green spaces everywhere. They have multiple parks and trail systems all over the place where you can go hiking or biking. So kids have a great time around here. Now, I'd say this is probably one of the best, or actually maybe even the best master plan community in all of San Diego. So if that's where you're looking for, it doesn't really get any better than this. And look, this is a very popular neighborhood right now. So if you want to live right in Pacific Highlands Ranch, the median price is about $2.5 million for a detached house and $1.5 million for townhomes. So it's definitely a bit pricey. And at this point, it's basically all built out. Now, they do have some townhomes that were just built right next to the town center, but for detached houses, there's nothing new that's coming to the market. Now, if you don't care about having all these amenities, there's also an older part of town called Carmel Country Highlands. These were mostly built back in the 90s and 2000s, so they're not super modern, but you're still getting into the top district in San Diego. Now, most of these lot sizes are going to be less than 8,000 square feet, so if you want a house with a big backyard or maybe some land, that's not really what Carmel Valley is known for. Unless you go up to Del Mar Mesa, but those houses are going to be at least $3 million. All right, so now I want to break down the cost of living you should expect, because it's not just the high home prices, but everyday expenses run a bit higher. So boutique fitness studios, organic groceries, upscale restaurants, it's all super convenient, but it's also more expensive. And look, because it's such a desirable area, almost everything costs more. Gas, groceries, and even things like car insurance can be slightly more expensive. For example, a membership at a fitness studio can easily run $150 to $250 a month, and grocery shopping at places like Jimbo's or Whole Foods is also going to be on the higher end. So at the end of the day, you're going to be paying a premium to live here. There's no way really around that. But if schools and safety are your number one priority, then Carmel Valley is going to be hard to beat. And hopefully this video gave you a good look at everything around town. So if you're thinking about moving here or anywhere else in San Diego, then feel free to reach out to me anytime, especially if you're moving here from another part of the country or another part of California. I can help make it as smooth as possible. I know all the different pockets and lifestyles around here, and it's really easy for me to point you in the right direction. So make sure you reach out anytime. All my info is on the screen. And if you want to watch a video where I rank some of San Diego's best and worst cities, then just click right up here. All right, I'll see you in the next one.